first about 30 minutes on this new to me 2018 KTM EX350 EXC-F. This is a kind of street legal enduro bike, and I bought it for some hard dual sport stuff. I've got a 2-stroke for normal riding that I like to do for like woods trails, but I wanted something street legal, something 4-stroke, so I don't have to worry about 2-stroke stuff for some of these longer exploring trips. And so far I really like it. So some of the things, I mean, it's got all the typical KTM pluses. So the ergonomics are really familiar to me, the brakes are awesome, the chassis is really good, it's really easy to ride, and it's kind of predictable. This is the second year of the Explore suspension, and this little test little turn track I have here is pretty rough. It's a lot of chop. In standard settings, it was a little bit too rough for me, so it's kind of beating me up. So I just set everything to comfort, and it's pretty good. Suspension's all stock. I'm right at the top of the stock spring range, so it works well for me. It's also 90 degrees out here today, so all that stuff's really good. I mean, it feels great. Something that I was kind of afraid of, I've ridden a bunch of 4-strokes before, but and I really love the 350. I've ridden a bunch of them, but I've never ridden a street legal one. So something that you see on a lot of these street tuned dual sport type of bikes or enduro bikes is that they run so lean to meet emissions that they have a lot of flame out issues, and it's just generally like kind of hard to ride in technical terrain. So I was a little bit concerned that this bike was going to be like that, and it's honestly not like that at all. This reminds me of a Beta 350, super smooth power. I can ride, this is a reasonably tight trail, I can ride the whole thing pretty much in third gear. I just clutch it a little bit in some spots, so it's almost like riding a 300 2-stroke, and the power is really, really smooth. They nailed the fueling on this thing. It is awesome. It's exactly what I was looking for. It's super linear. There's no like kind of heavy lumbering feeling to it where it's ripping your arms off every time you twist the throttle. It like builds progressively, which is nice, but there's a ton, I mean, there's a ton of torque. If you need torque, just twist the throttle and you will go. It's just very, very linear. So it's really, really easy to control. Nice to ride for like a long distance. And at the same time, the bike doesn't feel very heavy. So my current normal ride is a Husqvarna 150 that I ride on this little trail all the time. And honestly, I'm riding this right now, and there's none of that like initial impression of this being just a giant unwieldy bike. So it changes direction pretty much as easily as my 150 does. Maybe a little bit worse so because the tires on it aren't as good, but it's doesn't feel very heavy at all. It actually feels pretty damn light. Feels a little heavy if you're picking it up off the ground. You definitely notice a weight difference versus a 4-stroke or a 2-stroke. But riding feels really nimble, really light, kind of playful. You can just steer it with the pegs. Like this whole section here is pretty sweet. It's like skiing. You just jump direction, change direction, bam. And the because you can just twist the throttle a little bit and pick the front wheel up over. There's a big hole back there. It's just kind of awesome. So I see why these are so popular for like GNCC, because it's basically like a slightly more linear 300. And it's got so much torque, or so much grip too. Like coming out of corners, it just grips. Like you can come out of those corners so much quicker than I do on my Husky. So it is a pretty sweet machine for that. So those are all things I really like. And you see, I haven't shifted, I don't think, once. I'm all in third gear, not even using the clutch that much. And it's not flaming out. It's not like, you know, when you're off idle and you give it some gas, it doesn't stall like a lot of the other street legal or emissions compliant, let's say, 4-strokes do. Not some of them aren't even street legal. So the fueling on this thing is just mwah, it's just prime. I'm riding it just off of idle. That is sweet. I think the only thing I don't really like, well, a couple things. The first one is, so this is a 2018, and I've ridden a bunch of newer ones recently. So my buddy has a 2020 250 two-stroke. I have the Husky. I will say the front end, it does not feel as secure. It's kind of, it's a little bit all over the place, which for a 4-stroke shouldn't be a thing. So I don't know if it's the damping, it might be the ergonomics a little bit too. Kind of feels like you sit a little bit further back and down on the bike. On the newer KTM, you kind of feel like you sit a little further over the front. So maybe that's something to do with it. Other than that, the ergonomics are great. Super easy to steer with your legs. Unfortunately, I cleaned it really well, put a bunch of Moto bike shine stuff on it, so the bike's really slippery right now, which is a dumb idea. Looks really nice, but it's very slippery. It's kind of hard to grip with my legs. And the other thing is it is tall. That's something I really like about my Husky, is that it has got a very kind of short seat height while still having good ground clearance. Well, shorter, still not short. And I'm 5'11", so I'm not short, but it's definitely noticeable. It gives the bike a little bit more of a top-heavy feel, especially if you're doing something that's kind of technical. And when you're getting it on and off or dabbing, it's a definitely noticeable. So normally I wouldn't really care about this, but for like hard dual sport where you're on the bike all day in really technical terrain, I would really like to be able to dab more comfortably. Even though it's not good technique, in a dual sport situation, dabbing or paddling is way better than crashing. You're up some mountain somewhere. So that's definitely a noticeable thing. I don't think I'm really going to do anything about it, but it would be, that's I think where the newer Husqvarnas have a significant advantage, because they're just really comfortable to reach the ground. So it kind of encourages you to do some sketchy stuff in a much safer way. But other than that, I am very happy with this bike. This was a good decision. anybody else, you're out here looking at this video and know this is, you know, four models a year old now. But you're looking at a used 2018 KTM 350. It's a sweet motorcycle. Oh, a little too much front brake. So not the bike's fault. Like I was saying, it's a sweet motorcycle. And you should absolutely do it. See, I'm in third gear right now. Probably, unless it shifted when it fell down. And yeah, you can just set off. No problem, lots of torque. If you're afraid that it's not going to be enough power for you because it's the street legal version, do not be. This thing has tons of go. I don't know why you need to decork it. Maybe if you're a you know, A-level rider, or you're drag racing or something, maybe. But it's pretty good as is. All right. It is a really sweet bike. Crashes well too, as you just saw.